Hi there. I think we're ready to go. We're live, Michelle. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and welcome everybody to tonight's event. My name's Sarah Zimmerman. I'm the Executive Director of Communications for Coast Mountain College. I'm really thrilled to be here tonight to act as your moderator for tonight's all candidates debate for the School District 82 by-election for the school board seat that's been left vacant with the departure of Art Erasmus, who dedicated a lot of years to this school board and was a teacher before that. So he's a big loss to our community and the service that he provided. So we're looking forward to seeing who's going to fill that seat. Really excited to have 7 candidates here today. But before we begin, I'd like to turn it over to the president of the Terrace and District Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Tom Keller. Could you get the ball rolling for us today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. I would like to welcome and thank everyone that was able to join tonight. My name is Tom Keller, and I'm the president of the Terrace and District Chamber of Commerce. Firstly, we would like to respectfully acknowledge we are conducting this forum on the traditional unceded territory of the Kitsinkalem and Kitsalis, a part of the Tsimshian Nation, and we are honored to live, work, and learn together on this territory, on their territory. It is wonderful, as Sarah said, to see 7 candidates for such an important role. Education is a key part of the foundation of our future, and seeing the community take interest is always welcoming. Education is something we should rally around, and we should be supporting each other, supporting diversity, and supporting our teachers and youth. Education is also something we are passionate about, as it is so important for our future. So I hope we can all work together respectfully and look to grow through tonight's All Candidates Forum. I'd now like to introduce our timekeeper, Michelle Taylor, the Executive Director of the Terrace and Chamber of Commerce, District Chamber of Commerce, who I wouldn't survive without in my current role. And finally, Sarah Zimmerman, Executive Director of Communication with Coast Mountain College, as our moderator. I'll pass the ball back to you, Sarah.
Thank you. This is my first time moderating on Zoom, so I'm excited to be doing this, but of course, like any new platform, I might stumble a little bit here and there, so forgive me if I do that. We'd like to go through our agenda for tonight, and I'll give you a high-level overview of that. I just want to get the procedures that we're going to go through as well and get all of my documents in place, and it'll be good to go. Just hang with me for a second. So the way things will work tonight is that we'll be introducing the candidates. Will each introduce themselves. They'll have 2.5 minutes to do so. And the speaking order has been drawn prior to tonight's forum. So the speaking order tonight for the opening candidates, the opening statements will be Ed Harrison, Lynn Parker, Dave Crawley, Kate Spangle, Roger Leclaire, Peter Lambright, and Diana Penner. So that's the order that they will do their opening statements, and they'll go in reverse order at the end. I have finally found the notes that I am looking for, so I will be a little bit more succinct from here on in. So thank you to all the candidates for joining us tonight. This forum is being recorded. It's also streaming live on Facebook, and it'll be made available on the CMSD82 YouTube channel after tonight. Each candidate's allowed 2.5 minutes to make an opening statement, and the order of these statements is being determined in advance by draw. I've already given you the order that they'll be speaking in. Candidates will be asked not to interrupt other candidates' opening or closing statements. There will be a question and answer period afterwards, and questions have been provided prior to the forum and will be asked kind of in a random order by the moderator. In the event that we have questions that are the same or that there's several questions around the same theme, I will try to lump those together. So if you don't hear your question that you may have submitted to Michelle earlier this week, word for word, it might be because there were several questions that came in that way, and I'm just reframing it for the purposes of clarity and to make sure that we're asking as many questions as possible. I'll also be making sure that we'll be asking the appropriate candidates questions. Some questions we received were for specific candidates, others were more general. So we will be directing most questions to at least 2 candidates for each of those questions. And we'll try to make sure that each of the candidates gets a fair opportunity to have the same number of questions. So, and like I said earlier today, I'm not supporting any one candidate. I am a neutral person. So these questions have come to me just this afternoon, and we'll be using those questions there. And so most of those were also submitted by people in the public prior to 3 o'clock today. Answers to questions will be limited to just 1 minute to make sure that we can have as wide a discussion as possible. And candidates will have 2 minutes for closing statements. And the order of the closing statements are in reverse order. Michelle's gonna wave. She's our timer, and we're going to rely on her a lot tonight to keep everything going smoothly. So she will intervene when the candidate's time is up. The candidates will just be muted when they get the card. Can you show us the card that says you're done? She's got a series of cards. There's a stop card. She gives everybody a 30-second and 15-second and 1 minute warning. So she's going to be juggling quite a bit. She won't need the 1 minute warnings for the answers, just the 30 seconds. And the candidates have all been briefed on that. We may not get through all the submitted questions, but we're hoping that we'll be able to get through as many as we can. We're making pretty good time on explaining how we're going tonight, and I think we'll be able to get into question and answers in a pretty timely fashion. I'd like to introduce who our candidates are for the 2021 Coast Mountains Board of Education School District 82 School Trustee by-election in alphabetical order. And if you want to wave, folks, everybody's got their names as well. So we've got Mr. Dave Crawley, Mr. Ed Harrison, Mr. Peter Lambright, Mr. Roger Leclaire, Ms. Lynn Parker, Ms. Diana Penner, and Ms. Kate Spangle. So thank you all for being here and putting your names forward. This is, it's a big deal to put your name forward for public service, and it takes a lot of work and effort. So we appreciate you going through the effort of being able to put your names forward and taking part in tonight's questions. We will begin now with opening statements, followed by a question and answer session. And our first speaker will be Ed Harrison.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I would like to acknowledge that I'm making these comments on Kitsum-Kalem territory. I'd also like to acknowledge the audience, other candidates, and the Chamber of Commerce for offering this session. Schools today are the most important symbol of hope for students and their families. The Ministry of Education, through its new curriculum, clearly offers to students that hope for their future through a different approach to education. It adds new dimensions to learning through social, emotional components and a stress upon opportunity for students to learn how to learn. Each student as an individual learner counts. Their culture and language count. This new direction of curriculum means the school board reflects support for these changes. The initiatives that Janet Myers is taking with the current board are very positive steps towards ensuring that each student does count. For example, the addition of First Peoples culture language materials in the 4 languages found within the district are really important. Also, establishing a 5-year plan through consultation with families and students to provide comprehensiveness for the educational program while recognizing the important differences between each school community. This also means that communities can begin to hold boards accountable for their educational environment in the school in a measurable way. Learning today combines social emotional needs of a student into their subjects. Such a combination truly changes our approach to education. I would hope to have the opportunity and the privilege of working with the board as they explore this new way of working with students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Next up, we're going to hear from Lynn Parker. Lynn, over to you.
Welcome, everybody. So I'm going to share how I usually share traditionally. So Simgigat Siganam Hana Gan Wilson. Lynn Parker, also we have some Joellen, Wet, Canada, Deep, Wilkes, Nistok, Ne, Nicodane, Win Sawikwi. Pat Wright, West Noit, Elmer Wright, Ne Willie Derrick, West Niguati, Gloria Brown, West Najiji, Herb Wesley, West Nieti, Harris Kitsalis, Ninjagi. Welcome, everybody. And thank you guys very much for honoring our traditional territory. I just wanted to just let you know that, putting your name forward is a big thing. And I put my name forward because I was born and raised here in Terrace. And I also graduated here. I also went to college here. And I am also elected council for Kitsalis. And I feel it's important that different agreements and also in this new survey of the 5-year planning that we're doing for the school board, we need to ensure that the children's voice are heard during this pandemic. We need to ensure that the children's needs are met as well as the employees. And I think we need to make sure and get as much people as possible to make sure and answer the surveys and get this into the schools that we need their input. I look forward to your support on this journey, and I thank you guys all for your time. Good luck to all the fellow candidates, and thank you again.
Thank you, Lynn. I'd like to move on to Mr. Dave Crawley, formerly Marilyn. Dave joined the call today with Marilyn Crawley on there, so that was our little inside joke. Dave, over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event and providing us with the opportunity to put our faces out there and our names out there for this competition. I'm a local. I was born in Prince Rupert and graduated from high school there. I won't tell you when because it was a long time ago. But I spent a few years getting educated and then came back to Terrace, and I've been here now for 44 years. I've worked in our school system as a teacher, a counselor, a vice principal, a principal, and also as an education consultant. And recently, I spent some time working with Leclaire as their superintendent of education. For me, education is everything. It's a passion that I have. It's something I've spent my life working with and working on. A learner. I'm a learner, a lifelong learner. Why am I running for trustee? Well, first of all, I believe that education is the key to a better community and to the future for all of our children and all of us. The more students learn, the more they understand, the better for them and for everyone. I've had a long and, to me, exciting career in this business. And working with students, working with teachers, working with people has been a real joy for me. And so I feel that I have a lot of experience and knowledge, and that I'm able to hopefully take that and bring it back to the school district as a trustee and contribute and give back to the district that has given me so much. I don't come with any preconceived notions or ideas. I will contribute and consider carefully information and issues, and will always use my background and knowledge to assist me in making good decisions at the board level. This is, oh my goodness.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Good job there, Michelle. I wasn't as quick on the draw as I usually am. Thank you so much for your words, and you do have your closing remarks at the end as well of 2 minutes. So we'll move on to our next candidate, and that is Kate Spangle. Kate.
Hi, I'm very privileged to be a part of this forum. I would like to acknowledge the Gitxsan, the Haisla, Nisga'a, and the Tsimshian First Nations on whose traditional territories I live, work, and play, and on whose territory School District 82 provides services. To all Nisga'a people today, I say, Hobaye, may you have a prosperous new year. I bring a background of 4 decades of work in various capacities in the social service sector. My primary focus has been on children and families, most of whom have come from hard places. This is the lens through which I view all services to children, especially education, and the lens that I will be using to examine and support our services in the school district if I'm successful. What are we doing to recognize and meet the needs of children who have experienced complex trauma? What are we doing to support the educators and support staff in meeting the variety of needs of all of our learners? I really want to take this time to thank our district staff, teachers, support staff, and our board on continuing to provide the best services possible during these unprecedented times. And a huge thank you to our parents and students for their commitment to safety and education as we all struggle to find our way. Should I be the successful candidate, my focus will include a few areas that I see as being central to the work being done. I believe that it's incumbent upon the board to lead the way in the area of communication. Communication that is timely, respectful, and transparent must flow throughout our entire district. I will work hard to open the doors to even more direct communication with our educators, students, parents, support staff, communities, community partners, and our district staff. Did I get cut off? We need to build on and harness this passion to help shape our future planning and direction as a school district. What do we need to do collectively and collaboratively to provide for the best academic experiences and outcomes for all of our children? And these answers need to come from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. I appreciate those words. Our next speaker is Roger Leclaire. Roger? Okay, Roger, you can go ahead and start now.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and fellow candidates. I'd like to recognize that we're conducting this forum on the traditional territory of Tsimshian people. These are some of the areas I'd like to focus on if I was elected. I think we need to maintain a safe learning environment for all students and staff in time of COVID-19. We need to work together as a community to increase academic achievements with Aboriginal students. We need to work towards the district goal of having every student in the district graduated with a document certificate. Coast Mountain School District needs to look at efficiencies with funding to ensure that all special ed students' needs are met in a timely manner. We need to work with the different communities and stakeholders to ensure we maintain or improve the French immersion program. We need to maintain the integrity of the arts programs like music. We need to provide our trade center, maintain as a center of excellence. Promote our trade center, I should say. We need to continue community consultation on issues and change, but conduct them in a timely and effective manner. We need to review annually the strategic strategies on recruitment and retention of staff and management. Administrators, teachers, and support staff are challenged daily by a variety of issues that face their students in their classrooms. I think about COVID-19, bullying, family dynamics, poverty, a variety of cultural differences, funding, and special needs are just some of the areas that Coast Mountain School District Board of Trustees need to support staff and students. I have 13 years experience as a public school trustee. I have worked in adult education and previously sat on an Aboriginal Advisory Committee for Industry Training Authority on promoting trades training. I'm running for the school trustee because I believe I can make a difference. I have current experience and knowledge in how the school board operates and a passion of education and training that will support our student success in their lifelong learning journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. Our next speaker is Peter Lambright. Peter, I'm going to unmute you here and I'll mute myself and you're able to go ahead.
Hi, first I'd like to acknowledge the Tsimshan people for allowing us to be on their traditional territory. Hi, Simgigat, Zegamhanak, Gubawaksik, Gontaknak, Skupakit, Doyak Siknism, Wilbuxum, Luamp, Scotty, Amasak Gun. My name is Peter Lambright. I'm from the Nishka village of Gitwansik. I've been living in Terrace now for the last 8 years. I started off as a young man who joined the Army 6 weeks out of high school, retired, moved home, got asked to run into politics. I became the youngest politician of the Nishka Nation. After 12 years, I retired as the chief. I sat on the school board for 4 years, and we worked well together, collaborating with the parents, staff, and figuring out different ways to work together. I'm very much connected to the local area and the schools. As being Nishka, I've got family literally in every school in the area, and I have 2 rambunctious boys, 9 and 11, who keep me very busy and very well connected to what is going on by meeting the different parents, uncles, aunts, and figuring out how we can do this stuff together. And that is the key, is we are surrounded by Aboriginal communities. And if we started working together, we can do this. I've been an Aboriginal consulting for Aboriginal relations for many years. I work closely with the mines. I've got contracts there. I do Aboriginal relations for the mines. And these are all things that we should be working together as one, so that when we go forward and we put proposals to the province for changes, it is much stronger if we have the Tsimshan, the Giksan, the Nishka, and the Haisla all supporting our initiatives, because it's much harder for the ministry or government to say no when we are as one community, one nation, and one heart. I look forward to working with you. I'd like to thank you all for putting your name forward. And I look forward to helping to groom our future leaders of tomorrow for Terrace and for all of BC and Canada. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you very much, Peter. Our last candidate, but not least, Diana Penner.
Thank you very much. I think I'm on now. There, perfect. I want to thank everybody for being coming to this forum, for coming to listen, for giving us a chance to say our words and to hear your thoughts. I just, as I'm looking down at all the different candidates and the people that are represented here, it's to me almost a little picture of what we have in our school district. When I think of the 4,050 students that are there, it's not that unlike what we see right in front of us right now, a big cross section of a lot of different thoughts, backgrounds, very common goals in a lot of cases. And I think that's what I really want to reiterate today as well. I also have 9 years of experience in the past of being on the board of of Coast Mountains, and that was a real honor and privilege and an opportunity to be able to advocate for so many students at that time when we were looking at closing schools and 4-day school weeks and fiscal measures that were just unreal. There's always challenges, and as those challenges continue to unwind and unfold year after year, month after month, it's always something. It seems like I'm happy to take those challenges forward and to do so with diligence and with thought. I hope I have revealed that I have the fortitude for that, and I would like to continue to do so. I'm thankful for the people that have put their name forward today. It's so encouraging to see that so many people are willing to get out there and fight for the things that they believe in, and education is certainly one of those things. Hope to do the best I can for you. Hope that each of the candidates will be successful in their own ways as well. I offer everybody my congratulations again for coming forward, and I want to thank the audience once more for taking the time to listen. That's it.
Thank you, Diana. I appreciate that. Oh, got to find all the buttons on the Zoom. Make sure I'm doing it right. All right, so thank you very much for your opening statements. I'm always blown away by the breadth of experience in our communities and the perspectives that everybody brings. So thank you all for your opening words. I'm going to break my first rule, which was I was only going to ask the same question to 2 candidates for each. But I think that one of these first questions here is applicable to all of the candidates. And so I'd be interested in asking each of the candidates to answer this question. If you are the successful candidate for this position, you'll be a trustee until 2022. What would you most want to accomplish in that time frame as a trustee? So I want you to pick one thing out of your platform that you would like to accomplish as a trustee. And I'm going to go in random order, and we're going to start with Peter. I'm just asking to unmute you there, Peter. Go ahead.
Thank you. If I'm successful for the next couple years while I sit on the board, I strongly believe we should be lobbying and hitting up the provincial and federal governments fast and hard so that we can start updating our failing infrastructure. And as Terrace is growing, and it is the hub of the North, we have a lot of young people moving here for work and jobs. And once again, if we did this together as Terrace, Simpson, Gixon, Heisla, and Nishka, with their support and our working forward for the greater future of our school district, we could start to get a lot of the different benefits if we started doing it all as one. And as somebody who's been in Aboriginal relations and is related to pretty much everybody around here, and as a former chief, I know most of the leaders, and I know they would step forward for the greater good of their kids. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move over to Ed Harrison. Could you answer the same question? What is your one burning issue that you would like to accomplish if you became a trustee?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I think the 5-year plan is
Ed, I'm sorry. I'm going to get you to start over again if you don't mind. We missed that.
okay. I think the key is the 5-year plan that Janet has proposed with.
I don't know what's going on.
Are we still there? It keeps muting itself. Are you there? I can't hear.
One more time, go ahead, Ed. Sorry, from the top, if you don't mind. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. 5-year plan, over to you.
Video. Yeah, I think the 5-year plan is actually the critical component of the district's thrust in terms of the new curriculum, because it truly asks the district to seriously look at and analyze what parents and students, guardians are saying about the school system, and gives it a basis to build on over the next 5 years. And it also seriously does hold people accountable for what it is they're saying they want to do. So I would see that as the critical component.
Thank you very much. Sorry for those technical difficulties there. I appreciate that. Lynn Parker, over to you to answer the same question. Your one burning issue that, or accomplishment you'd like to accomplish.
From my platform, it is accountability. It is to ensure, and it'll go along with what was said before about the 5-year plan. If we're to work on more ways to support a student in reading, writing, math, or science, to excel in their education and acknowledge employees to feel valued for their work efforts. But if we're to help get this 5-year off the ground by ensuring that each child has their say in class, what supports they need. I think we need to hear from the students and hear from the staff. So we need that somehow. So I think that's what our biggest pressure is, to ensure that they are heard. We make that heard.
Thank you, Lynn. Kate, over to you.
Thanks. I think for me, the biggest priority is what I said in my opening, is that of communication, is open, flowing, transparent, timely, respectful communication that we're seeking from our community, from our parents, from our students. I echo what Lynn and Ed have said about that 5-year plan. We have to have the communication from all of our partners in order for that 5-year plan to be solid and to be meaningful. I think opening up more lines of direct communication is what I would really like to achieve in the next 1.5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Dave, over to you, please.
Thank you, Sarah. I think for me, first of all, would be to help guide the schools and the district through the pandemic, to get us past COVID-19 and onto a better way. And then the 5-year plan is also very important. So I believe that having a direction, having goals, and then checking along the way to see that we're on track and that we're moving in the right direction is essential to the success of the schools and to the learning of the students, all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And Roger, your thoughts on your big burning issue?
Okay. I guess it gets a little harder when you're on the back end of this and everybody else has said it. But I think exiting out of COVID-19 is going to take a while, and that's going to really affect the delivery of programs and services at the school district. And I agree with this strategic plan that we need to get this done. But along with that, we need to have an implementation strategy that we take that plan and implement it in the district. Just the plan itself needs to have that next step to go with it. So those are my priorities.
And last word over to you, Diana.
So I would have to say that I think over and above, the biggest thing for me is teamwork. I think we've discovered more and more that every time something falls off the radar screen, the quickest way that we fall off with it is that we're not all on the same page. So for me, it's always been teamwork. It's about our 4,000 students being hearing their voices heard, 770 staff hearing their voices heard. It's about all of our 19 schools being on the same page, all of us wanting the same thing for one another and working with one another. So having said that, technology, I think right now is the place where we're falling off the quickest. So I think that for me, staying abreast with what's going on with technology, and this is a prime example with our mics and all that sort of stuff. So it's a hard track to stay on. Thanks.
I'm just talking here by myself. So many platforms learning to use, having to remember all the tricks. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, we're going to transition into, isn't that ironic that that happened right after you're saying that, Diana? I think this was user error though, not the platform itself. I'm going to move into a question about French immersion, and I'm going to ask Kate and Ed. I'm going to direct these two questions this question to you. What is your take on French immersion, and what would the school board be doing to not only ensure the program is maintained, but to improve it and increase growth, assuming that you agree that it should be improved and increased? So Kate, I'm going to ask you to answer that question first, and then Ed, you'll be next.
Thank you. I think that French immersion is vital for our students, for our families. And I think as a board, we have to ensure the longevity and the sustainability of our French immersion schools and programs. As I understand it right now, École Mountain View is very crowded. In fact, what's been explained to me is it's bursting at the seams. But I think we have to look at how do we meet the demand for French immersion. Clearly, the demand is there. And as a board, what is it that we have to do to strengthen and grow the French immersion program?
Thank you very much. Ed, your thoughts? And my hands are off the computer. Oh, unmute yourself, Ed. There you go.
The program itself has been successful. I think a number of the keys are that we need qualified teachers. That becomes important. That the parents need to know that the type of instructional strategies that are being used are successful, and that they encourage their students to participate in the program. That in turn builds a program, because we know that parents and students talk. And the more they talk, the more they build the program's strength, and they set the standard for the program. And that's usually communicated to the board. And so it's important to understand its place within the school community, within the school's community. And I think that those kinds of strategies would work towards building a stronger French immersion program.
Thank you very much, Ed. I see that Roger has his hand up, which means that he would like to use a rebuttal. Roger, you've got 1 minute for your rebuttal.
I agree with what Kate and Ed have said, but there's more to it than that. I think we ran into problems in the past with French immersion because there needs to be a community buy-in too. You need that support from the communities and the public, and you need that feeder and the interest and the parents to get involved. Just the school board itself can't make the program. It needs the whole community to make that program, and it is an excellent program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your insight on that question. There was a couple different versions of that question. The École Mountain View PAC had wanted to direct a similar question to all of the candidates. If we have the opportunity towards the end, we'll ask a few other candidates their views on French immersion, and some of you also included that in your opening statements. So in the interest of moving on to different topics, I wouldn't mind asking, we're going to ask Lynn Parker and Peter Lambright. If you were to become a school trustee, what would the board's role be to meet the emotional, physical, social, academic, and spiritual needs of all students? So social, cultural, spiritual, academic. And Peter, we'll start with you. Oh, sorry, Lynn. Lynn, you can go ahead then.
Hi, so Sarah, you said, how are we going to meet those needs? Is that right?
Yeah, the person asking the question wants to know what the plan would be to meet the emotional, physical, social, academic, and spiritual needs of students.
Those are big words. And how are we going to protect and ensure that our kids are getting that? And what I was looking at, and why you guys see me scuffling, we have 19 schools across our school district. And we need buy-in from the teachers as well. I've had this conversation in the past. We need buy-in from the teachers, and we need buy-in from the students on what we're going to do. And we need to start right at the school year, and we need to work throughout the year to ensure that the voice is heard on what they need so that we could provide that support. So there needs to be options given to each of the teachers, and there needs to be options given to the students and staff to see what they would like to have as extra support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Ran out of time there a little bit. Peter, over to you. It's hard in 1 minute.
Yeah, I didn't get these questions in advance. Did anybody else?
No.
Shucks. As a parent, I will let you know those are key aspects of that everybody and anybody who has children, who is an uncle, grandfather, uncle, nephew, whatever the case may be, it's a very, very big thing. But listening to the parents, giving them direct access to the school board to be able to say, this is what's going on in my family, but anonymously if they want. My child needs this, this, and this. How can we do it? So whether it be bringing in counselors, social workers, extra food, extracurricular, our job as leaders is to be there to help the kids, but it's also there to help the parents so that they can help their kids grow as well in a safe and a positive environment. And that's what we want to bring to our school and listen to what the needs are of the community and the parents.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, Peter. We're going to move on to, oh, sorry, Diana would like to use one of her rebuttal cards. Go ahead, Diana.
Just want to say that those questions are big words, no doubt about that. But they're also something that aren't new. That's something that comes up all the time. And as such, that's something that is in the policy already of the school board and the Ministry of Education in BC. So it's been handled in some respects through the policy making within the school and the policies that stand within our school district. Having said that, it is supported then by our teachers and it's supported by our MIN through the things that are done within our schools. Now, we haven't seen a lot of that this year with COVID, but normally it's not unusual to see cultural dinners and recognition of Canada Day and all those events as a big event within our schools that surrounds the makeup of what education is that week. So I think it's something that is being addressed on an ongoing basis. And as such, I believe we would all be prepared, or at least I would, to continue to do so. Thanks.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, Dave Crawley, can you talk about your understanding between governance and operations and your role as a board member with those two things?
Well, thank you, Sarah. I can. Governance is what the board responsibility is. We're there to set policy and direction for the school district. And operations are the responsibility of the school superintendent and the administrators in the school district. They operationalize the policy that the board sets, and the ministry as well, obviously.
Roger Leclaire, I'm going to ask you the same question. Where do you see your role on the board and the difference between operations and governance as a board member? Oh, Roger, you need to unmute yourself. There we go.
Okay. The Board of Trustees is a governance model, and their role is to set policy, direction, approve budgets, and support staff. They only have one staff that fall under the board. It's the superintendent, and everybody else falls under the superintendent. So you only have one employee. And it's not the board's role to intervene in operational aspects of what happens on the district. Thank you.
Sarah, you have to unmute.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We have a wide-ranging question here that talks a little bit about religion in schools and the questions around whether we should be adapting public schools to incorporate freedom of religion and belief. So I'm going to pose this question to Kate. Our Constitution in Canada guarantees freedom of religion and belief and the ability to change or accept those beliefs. What do you think the role is of the board to incorporate any sort of religious beliefs into the schools?
I'm not sure that religious belief belongs in the schools, quite frankly. I think that is a family, parental responsibility. I think, the Constitution definitely enshrines freedom, but if we institute any form, we institute all forms. And I'm not sure that we have the capacity to do that. I think that we need to be respectful of all religions and beliefs. But do we institute it? No, I don't believe so. I think that we communicate our respect outward to everyone. And if accommodations need to be made, then I think that would have to be looked at on a policy basis. Sorry, that was a tough question.
It is a tough question. We've got them all. I see 2 rebuttals already. We'll go with Lynn first, and then Ed, you'll be able to rebut after Lynn.
Hi, thank you. I don't think that it should be instituted. Like Kate said, I think we need to acknowledge all cultures. We need to accept them. Our 4,500 students are part of their culture, and we need to acknowledge it. And if they bring it to school, and we already honor the culture of the First Nations, but we don't learn about in the textbook. I think we need to learn about other cultures aside from First Nations. We need to learn about those, and the more our students know about different cultures that are around us, the more that they'll be accepted and less stigmatized. So I think that needs to be acknowledged in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And over to you, Ed.
just to follow up on what Lynn was saying, I think there's a difference between the practice of the religion and studying the religion. It would be pretty hard to understand the Middle East and the Muslim culture that's involved in it without actually studying something about the Muslims and their religion. And I think that's the difference between, how was it phrased? The practice and the learning about. And I think it's appropriate that, given the age, it's appropriate to allow students to learn about other cultures, and particularly the language component, the religious component.
Any other rebuttals to that question? Thank you, Ed. We'll move on to another topic now, equally potentially divisive. I don't know. Would you support a teacher saying under one worldview that people are made male and female, and under a different worldview that there are many genders? Diana, I'm going to ask you to answer that question, and then I will turn it over to Peter. So the notion of worldviews having differing worldviews around multiple genders or just male and female.
I think that's a multifaceted question, which brings to mind the same type of concerns that come from the religious question. I think it's important for us to recognize the differences in culture and the differences in the way that we see ourselves, which is the gender question in some respects. So when I spoke earlier about the importance of what I'd like to see in our school district being teamwork, to me that's a big part of it. So the gender question is about recognizing one another, the respect for one another, working together with one another, and finding out where our common ground stands. For me, the gender question is that also, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
Thank you very much, Diana. Peter, what are your thoughts on that question?
I have uncles and aunts who are two-spirited. I have friends and family who are identifying as something other, and that's okay. If they would like to identify it as what they would like to as their gender, it's called respect. It doesn't matter. We respect the person and their right to decide what they would like to be identified as. That is a pure, simple rule in any culture, any language. The first rule is respect. So it doesn't matter. We respect everybody at all times. Thank you.
Over to you, Kate. You'd like to use a rebuttal on that question.
I would. Peter, I appreciate what you were saying tremendously about respect and respect for all. I think within our schools, what needs to be paramount is that our students feel safe. Our schools have got to be safe environments for our kids to come to. Our kids, by virtue of growing and learning, are going to explore who they are. They're going to learn to discover who they are. We have got to provide the safety so that they can be who they are meant to be. And I think there's many, many ways we can do that. And again, I'm going to take it back to communication. We have got to start having these conversations at the board and district level with our communities of what does safety mean and how do we keep our kids safe as they grow and learn and explore. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say on this from a rebuttal perspective? Okay, moving on. Roger, I got a good question for you. This was specifically for you. I might soften it a little bit. Your wife is the mayor of Terrace. She used to be employed by the school district. You want to be a trustee, and you've been a trustee before. What is it about the Leclaires that made them want to sit on boards and do things for their community?
I guess like a few other trustees here, I was born in Terrace. I grew up in Terrace, and you know, you have to give to the community. The community's given you so much. you have to give back also. So it's a culture. And this is our way of giving back to the community. And we enjoy it.
Thanks for that, Roger. Lynn, you know you have 2 rebuttals. You want to use your last rebuttal on this one? You're going to hold off. Okay, smart move. Okay, so moving on to issues of COVID-19 and the effect of the pandemic on schools. All of us have been under major pressures this year, both with the pandemic and social stressors. The question here, and I'm going to ask Ed, if you could think about this, and I'm also going to ask Dave Crawley to think about this. How do you see supporting the school districts, schools, students, and teachers through the stresses that have been caused by COVID-19? Oh, sorry, I'm gonna unmute you there, Ed.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's actually a really difficult question to answer because we're moving into the 3rd phase of it with the new varieties of COVID. I think the stresses that are going to come out of that, we're already beginning to see in Surrey District with the classes closed, because all of a sudden the younger students are prone to picking up the disease. So it really is difficult to say that this time next year we need these services. I think we're going to need more services, more understanding of the effects, and a lot more people to talk with students about the effects and how they're stressing themselves and their families. It's not an easy question.
Not an easy question at all. I believe I said, Dave, I'm asking you the same question. How do you see helping school districts or the school district and the schools deal with the stresses of the pandemic?
Well, to begin, I think I would like to encourage that we err on the side of caution, and that we do everything we can to keep students safe and staff safe in the schools. There's been more discussion lately about the use of masks and better masks around the variants of the virus. And I think that may be something to be encouraged, to encourage more use of masks in the schools for students, and just to deal with, because I know, as Ed said, there are going to be many things coming up, and we're not sure which direction these things are going to go in. So to err on the side of caution would be my 5 word, I guess.
Thank you for that, David. Still on the topic of COVID, but from a different perspective, you know, learning has, with the assumption that learning has been interrupted in some ways over the last year, and certainly going into this school, finishing this school year. 2022, this person is guessing that there will have to be some accelerated learning or a transition to a compassionate way of learning in 2022. Looking forward to that time period, Kate, what are your thoughts on how to provide a leadership role with administrators in helping students, I guess, get caught up after the you know, assuming post-pandemic 22-23? How do you prepare for that?
I think saying 2022 is not a given, but let's work with that. I think, first of all, as a board, we have to take our lead from the experts that will be able to better inform us about where are we at with our students' learning, where are our gaps, where are our lags, and how can we most effectively meet those? Is that in fact what our families desire? How can we best support our educators and our support staff? I think, again, we have to go back to what the research that hopefully will be available is going to tell us also. I don't purport to be an expert in it, so I really think that we would need to rely on a lot of information from external sources as to how best proceed.
Thank you for that. Diana, I'm going to ask you the same question. What are your thoughts on, I guess, post-pandemic or new normal approach to education, and how you would hope the board would support administrators in that transition to either accelerated learning or whatever that scenario looks like. Oh, sorry, I accidentally hit your mute button. I'll let you do that.
I think that having the crystal ball and knowing what's going to come forward it would be awesome if we could know that come 2022 we're in a different situation, and it's after. For sure, the face of education has changed just because of this pandemic. The way that education is delivered, the way that we look at the health of our students and our families, and how important it is that our children are in school, and how important our staff is, because we've realized now, I think so many people are aware of the fact that they are not the teachers. Although parents think that, I mean, we are all teachers, having said that, but we are not the teachers when it comes to structure. We're not, it is a skill. It's something that a teacher is a blessing to so many children because they're able to communicate so much information. And the pandemic has made us recognize that that is something that a lot of us don't have the ability to do well. And to be able to take our children and place them into school is not about putting them into,
Time goes by fast, doesn't it? Okay. Oh man, look at that. There's the mute button. Just talking by myself again here. This is so much easier with a microphone in a giant REM Lee theater with 500 people in front of me. I'll take that any day over managing technology. So I can only imagine what our students are up to. I have a teenager in grade 12 or grade 11 and 2 kids in kindergarten and grade 3. And it's mind-boggling to see what they are learning and how they've had to adapt their learning systems and approaches due to COVID. It is 8 o'clock. We do have the option of taking a quick bio break if anybody needs that, but I think we could probably just move ahead. I'm seeing some no's. We're going to carry on, folks, unless there's some desperation to stop. So let's just move along. This question has to do with, let's see here. Land and buildings owned by School District 82 that have been primarily funded by the Ministry of Education with the intent to being used for educational purposes. The question here, Peter, I'm going to pick on you for this one, and Ed Harrison, I'll ask you as well. Would you consider partnering up with another school board or educational entity to increase education diversity in the territory that's covered by School District 82? So that would be with reference to land and buildings owned by School District 82. Would you consider partnering with other school boards or educational entities to increase education diversity in this area? Peter, I'll ask you to answer this question first, and then Ed, over to you.
Hi, that would have been a dream if it went back when I was in school. To have, with modern technology today, the Nisga'a Nation are just going to be doing this. They're endeavoring into robotics, and they're going to be working with a group out of Vancouver. But with modern technology, it's all done on Zoom. So for us to be able to team up with other educational entities out there to offer more diverse programs for our kids, especially those going into grade 11, 12, and then teaming up with other groups so that we can offset or figure out a way, because what does it build? A sheet of plywood is $50 today. A 2x4 is $10. So for us to start replacing our infrastructure, we're going to have to start thinking outside the box on how we can start to facilitate our aging infrastructure. So yes, I think it is something to explore. As long as our kids and our staff are safe and we can explore outside the box and we can offer more for our kids, yes, I do think we should. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Over to you, Ed.
Okay, I think establishing partnerships is a valuable thing, provided the partnership offers what we're looking for and the students are looking for, the school is looking for. The flexibility of buildings is probably an issue these days. with the changing curriculum. If we look at a square box for a classroom, that's not necessarily the best way to use the space. And we've been through that before with open learning and all those kinds of things. I think wherever the building can be used effectively and the students and the parents, guardians are able to effectively see that this is a valuable use, we should do that.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. So again, on the idea of capital capital projects or infrastructure, Diana, would you consider selling any non-utilized parcel of land or buildings to another school board or another educational entity?
This actually came up in conversation with some of the PAC members about infrastructure and the fact that infrastructure is not always meeting the needs of the students. There was some discussion as to, for example, in our district, we have the Francophone School. The Francophone School is technically another district, but it serves the students and the children in our community. So we have an empty school right next door to them. They're expanding past their abilities. Would that be something that the school board should entertain? I would certainly have that conversation as a trustee.
Thank you for that. Roger, I'm going to ask you the same question. You don't need to use a rebuttal for that because I beat you to it.
The school district already has been, I'll give it some examples. Thornhill Senior High is been converted over to a trade center, and it's in partnership. There's other unions, pipe fitters run programs out of there in partnership with school district. The gym is used by other groups that's one example, but there's other examples. There used to be a community school in town where there were different things happening at one time, so there has been other examples in the past of a collaborative approach with the multi-use of a facility. There are some challenges around it at times with the legality side of things, but they can be overcome if needed. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Lynn Parker, I'm going to ask you the next question. Schools aren't the same institutions that they were in the past, and students aren't necessarily the same that they were historically. What do you think are important changes that our schools should embrace so that students can continue to graduate with dignity, purpose, and options?
Well, I'm going to ask you to repeat it.
Sure.
So think of the answer again.
I'll skip the preamble for you. What do you believe are changes that our schools should embrace so that students can graduate with dignity, purpose, and options?
They need more choices. Our students need more choices. They need a career plan. I think from grade 9, I was part of a few committees, and this is one of the things that I'm very passionate about, is if you get someone in grade 9, do a career path, and then grade 10, 11, and 12, work with those, but give life skills at the same time, so that when you graduate, you know how to cook, you know how to budget, you know what cultures there are out there, and you know that you're working towards your career path. And that by the time you graduate, you're going to jump into either college, university, and you're supported. And that's where the scholarships come. So thank you.
Dave, actually, I was going to ask you that question next, so you don't need to use a rebuttal card for that. Do you want to go ahead?
I will, thank you. I think it's really important that we recognize the individuality of learners and provide them with options in terms of ways to demonstrate their learning and their mastery of concepts. It's important that we deal with students more individually, and we have the flexibility to shape programs and learning opportunities for them based on their interests, their strengths. We have to keep them engaged. And if they get to do things they like to do, or they're good at, then their chances of being successful are much greater. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dave. I want to talk a little bit about Indigenous graduation rates. There's, statistics that show that Indigenous students aren't graduating at the same rate as non-Indigenous students in our region. What do you think is the role of the board in addressing this issue? That question is going to go to Ed first and Peter second. There you go, Ed.
I think it's really important to recognize the difference in those graduation rates. While they've improved over the last few years, they're still not where they should be. And I think that reflects back on the uses of language culture in the schools. If we go up to Prince Rupert, there are courses in Somalic in the elementary schools beginning in kindergarten, whereas here we're still wrestling with the concept of materials. I think it's really important to consider that language culture component right through the schooling years, so that when students come to grade 12, they're able to make reasonable decisions based on an understanding of culture, their culture.
Great. Peter, did you want to go ahead and answer that question as well?
As somebody who had the honor of bringing in Aboriginal youth initiatives from the Canadian Forces, the Bold Eagle program, the Raven program, I've worked extensively over the last 20 years with Aboriginal youth, and it literally goes back to, it takes a community to raise a child. And so I would go in, I would meet with the leaders and get permission to speak to their kids. Then I would go in and I'd meet their parents and say, okay. And I literally had a $10,000 a year pizza budget, because I was going in on a regular basis to meet with the parents, meet with the kids, find out what supports could be there, because many of the parents were afraid to go and ask, or by the time, because I was one of them. Unfortunately, my parents found out I was failing math at my report card time. So it's about opening up the communication directly.
Sorry, Peter, that minute was up and I had to mute you. I do like the mute button sometimes, though. I wish I had one of these when we were at the R.E.M. Lee Theater. Not that I want you to stop talking, Peter. We could talk about this all night. Lynn, given that you have spent quite a bit of time in the area of Indigenous politics and supports for students and youth, would you like to answer this question as well?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've talked with Agnes, who is the lady that deals with the Indigenous, and then also anyways, I talked to Agnes. We made a plan, and she has like this big, long title. And we understood at the time, because at the time I was working at Commodity French Society and working for Kitsalis as one of their leaders. We do as much as we can do to support. And I know that I worked with my niece last year to help with hers, and I know that there's not enough support for all of our students. And I say that with respect, that all grade 12 students that need that support really need to get it. And I really would love to support that.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Lynn. I appreciate your perspective. Just cruising through these questions here. We're making pretty good time. So let's talk a little bit about mental health. It's, you know, we talked a little bit about stresses. We know that young people deal with mental health in different ways than adults and sometimes don't have the language to talk about it. As a school board, how do we ensure that we are connecting youth with supports for mental health? Diana, over to you on this one to start with. And let me see here. We're going to ask Kate. We haven't heard from you in a little while. So Diana first and Kate next on the topic of supporting mental health supports for students.
I think having open dialogue is one of the primary things when it comes to mental health. It's one of those things that we still have in a closet. So that's probably, for me, the biggest thing is just getting it out there and talking about it more free, more openly. And with that in mind, recognizing also that we have lost an awful lot of people in our community to suicide, which is due to mental health. So it's not something we shouldn't be talking about. It's something we should be taking seriously. For me, it's getting it out there and talking about it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And yeah, it's been a hard many months for several people in our communities. And so our hearts go out to those families that have lost loved ones. And I know that that's affected students in schools as well. And that's a tricky thing to navigate, both as parents and teachers and administrators. Kate, what are your thoughts on how to navigate mental health supports for students in schools as a trustee?
I agree with what Diana has said in terms of we have got to have the conversations, we've got to have the communication occurring. Personally, I think we need some actual services in our schools that our children can access directly in the building. Again, taking it back to being a safe environment, looking at things through a trauma-informed lens. We have to look at where our kids are at developmentally, as that has a direct impact on how they can handle stressors in their life. So what can we do as a board is support our educators in some of the more of achieving and gaining some of the more tangible tools that we can put in our classrooms without overloading our educators.
Thank you very much for that. Let's talk a little bit about music, shall we? It's not a good school district conversation if we're not talking about music. So Dave, where is your stance on how to ensure that there are a range of options in the arts, especially with music, for students throughout all of the grades?
Sure. Ask a jock that question. Way to go. I think that the arts, all of them, are extremely important. I think to provide opportunities for students to develop themselves in those areas, music, art, drama, any of those things is really critical. And we have to support it as much as we can in our schools. It's a part, it's a thread of the community, and it's something, those skills and those talents can carry them forward and open doors for them and provide them with an enriched life. So I think that's a wonderful thing.
Roger, what are your thoughts on supporting the arts in the school district?
I think I alluded to that in my opening statement. I totally agree with supporting the arts and music. I think we've got one of the best music programs in the province, and you can look at the music festival that happens here every year, other than this year. You know, brings in people from right across the province and adjudicators. And the quality of music, we've won national awards with the quality. So it's a very rich, latent program in the school. And that, you know, academically, students that are musically talented do very well academically. So, you know, one coincides with the other. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Roger. Diana, did I see you lift your hand for that one? Okay, Diana, using a rebuttal card, and then Kate as well. Go ahead, Diana?
I just want to add to what Roger has said in regard to that. In my mind, that there's so much about education for our students that's important, but engaging both sides of the brain is one of the key factors in making our students a fully rounded student. And music, art in general, and language, which is still in the same arena, engages the other side of the brain. So we need that tactile learning. We need to be able to engage all aspects of our senses, and music and language is such a big part of that. So I absolutely support that. But having said that, it is a fiscal responsibility that we need to take seriously, and it should start from kindergarten and go to grade 12. And that's something that I've always believed through all the tenure that I've been a school district trustee and would like to continue to do.
Thank you, Diana. Kate?
Yeah, I agree absolutely with what everyone has said. The arts are critical to children's development. Again, when I use my lens of trauma-informed, that is an outlet for so many of our children that have difficulty communicating other ways. It's an outlet for our children who, again, are exploring and growing and learning who they are. So drama, music, art, all of those are key learning blocks that we must ensure are in our school.
Thank you very much for that. Any other rebuttals or oh, Roger, you're going to use a rebuttal card on music? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go back 25 years when I was first put on the board and we amalgamated with Kitimat. And we were running the fiscal challenges. We were cutting some of the music program, and I chaired a meeting of 500 angry parents. So you don't want to rattle a cage with around music, parents. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You know, about a year and a half ago, we're going to switch gears, and it's Kate, you were making me think of accountability and transparency and communication. There were public rallies, students walked out of schools, and this was around staffing decisions that were made by the school district that parents and students felt that they hadn't been heard or consulted with or engaged with. Dave Crawley, I'd like you to consider how to improve that kind of, how do you balance the complex nature of human resourcing when you have constituents that feel like they should be part of that process? That's a hard one for you. And Kate, you're next up on this one.
Okay. Well, it's always an issue balancing, providing programs and resources with the fiscal responsibility. But I think people need to be heard. And when the answers they want aren't the ones that they aren't getting the answers they want, then I think they should at least understand why. So communication from the board to the public and back and forth is really critical in those situations. Sometimes you make hard choices, but you have to be able to justify your decisions and explain them. Thank you.
Kate? Oh, Kate, you should unmute there. Perfect.
Sorry, my train of thought just fell out of my ear. In terms of those hard decisions, in terms of staff changes and staff movement and HR decisions that, yes, have to be made, but I will go back to my opening comments around timely, respectful, open communication. I think if our community is given a lead up as to decisions that need to be made, these are going to have to be made in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, given the rationale behind that, and then seeking input. There is nothing wrong with seeking input from our community and truly listening. Dave talked about hearing people. It's not enough to just hear them. We have to also try and meet the needs of as many as we can in the most collaborative fashion that we can. Thank you.
Well done. That was with like 1 second to spare. So I want to ask a little bit about recruitment of professionals. It's something that organizations in this region are, struggle with on a regular basis, is getting those trained professionals. Also recruiting, teachers that reflect the students that they're teaching. So Indigenous teachers and teachers with French immersion skills and French language skills. What do you propose would be a solution for the board to consider in attracting teachers with those students from a recruitment perspective? Lynn, I'm going to ask you this question. Roger, you too, please. So on the question of attracting teachers with special skill sets to fill the needs of our schools.
I think this has been a question for a long time, and I think providing to the public about the 5-year plan, I think looking ahead, letting the people know what's going to be looked for. Those are always good indicators to the public of what's needed. And then outwards, trying to attract is providing more benefits, and not more benefits, but listing them, because some people that don't live around here don't know about all of our glory that we live in. So I think listing them really would benefit them, and also just talking to the people and really letting the public know of what's needed and what's to come, because people are in school right now. So.
Sorry, Lynn, I had to cut you off, ran out of time. It's a tricky one. I never passed the test of being short in my musings. I see, Ed, that you would like to speak. Ed, you don't need to use a rebuttal card for that. I had planned to ask you and Roger, so go ahead.
Okay, regards to recruitment, recruitment's been a bit of a challenge for the district over the years. They've had to be proactive and go out to other universities, in a lot of cases, back east recruiting teachers. We've got a lot of teachers in the Maritimes because that was the best game in town at the time, trying to get new teachers coming out of university, and so that's always going to be a challenge. And you're competing against other districts for the same commodity, so it is a challenge. In regards to retention, we've got an aging workforce there, and we really have to look at how are we going to keep that continuity going. And you're getting some teachers coming back on the sub list, and which is helping a bit, but there's some challenges there in the next few years, and I think planning for it is the best strategy. Thank you.
Ed, over to you. What were your thoughts on recruitment of skilled teachers for the district?
I just finished working as the Bachelor of Education Coordinator at UNBC for the last 13 years. We graduated 124 students that are mostly teaching in the North, and 40% of those students were First People. So that small community that we have here has supplied teachers right throughout, from Prince River at Haida Gwaii down to Burns Lake. The local training works, but the local training is disappearing. And I think that's what the community has to know, that increasingly we're going to have to be going out more and more looking in other places, because we don't know whether that program will exist next fall or not. And I think that's something that the whole community, the whole northern area of the Pacific needs to be aware of. And what you do after that is anybody's guess.
Okay, I see first Peter with the rebuttal and then Dave. Go ahead there, Peter.
I thank you. This is going to become a very big issue. We already know our teachers and nurses are retiring. They're aging out. Our problem is going to be not what we have to offer, but where are you going to put a new student right out of university with debt when it costs you $1,200 to rent a place here? So Terrace is rapidly becoming a place we can't afford to attract people to. This is when we are going to have to start working with levels of government, because they removed our Northern Living Allowance. That would greatly work for us. And that's a benefit that we can offer that doesn't come out of our paycheck or our budget. But the simple fact that where are we going to put these people? We live in a gem. It's cultural, it's diverse. If you're outside, we have everything going, except in the last couple of years, rent and mortgages are gone through the roof, and they're $300,000 for a house.
Sorry, Peter. Over to you, Dave. Tell us your thoughts on the challenges of recruitment for skilled teachers.
Well, I've been recruiting teachers for a couple of years, so I know the difficulties, that's for sure. I think incentives to bring people here, to market our area and our lifestyle. It's a beautiful country and there are many great opportunities here. Opportunities professionally to advance and grow. So incentives like forgiving student loans, for example, maybe providing some subsidized housing, and finding teachers in other parts of the world or in other parts of the country that are living in similar areas or are aware of North and aware of small town living and so on. I think those are some of the things that we can do. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any other takers on that one? Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of education assistance. We know that that's an important role. We know that increasingly there's more students that require the support of education assistance. Similar question around recruitment, but how do we identify and support training for education assistants to support our students in classrooms? Ed, what do you think about that? And then Lynn. Sorry, Ed, we got to unmute you there. I'm gonna try that one more time, Ed. Still can't hear you.
Okay.
There we go.
The college has a role there. They stepped out of that role of training assistants about 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I think that is an important outlet that we haven't explored. And an important one in the sense that it establishes the assistants in the local community with local knowledge of the students whom they're teaching. And I think that becomes important. And they can use multiple technologies to take that out into the communities as well. I think too, that it needs to be given to the university to think about what role they can play in developing the educational assistant program. Can it lead into a teacher education program?
Oh. Who else did I have on that question? Lynn, sorry.
It's okay. So education assistance is needed a lot more than not nowadays. I think the fact that there's so many students that are needing those extra supports that we need to let the public know. If the public don't know, they don't know what is needed. Again, that 5-year plan comes in. And again, that plea to the public of what's coming and what's needed and our aging force, like you were talking about earlier, Peter. I think the educational assistants, I had a few people that have taken that course, and you can take it online and the support is there. We just need to tell the people that we need more. So I think communicating to the public is a really big plea that we need to do, and being more open to the community of TERS and the surrounding areas of Hazelton and Heisla and Kitimat and the Gixan, the Jim.
I'm sorry, Lynn, we're out of time. I am going to wear my Coast Mountain College hat for a second. And Ed, you'll be happy to know that we did run a successful and full education assistant program this year. It's the first time that we've run it in quite some time. And we couldn't have done that without the support of school districts and some of the folks that have been working in the school districts at that time. So fingers crossed with that kind of interest that there are opportunities moving forward. We've only got a few more minutes before we're going to transition into our closing remarks. Roger, when you think about measuring success of your role on the school board, what would that look like?
I guess for me, success is looking at the graduation rate and looking how many students graduate, how many Aboriginal students graduate, you know, how many special needs students complete school. To me, that's success. You know, if we have good numbers, you know, we've got a ways to work on that, and you know, we have to be innovative in our approach how we're going to create that environment for students to be successful. But if we all work together as a whole community, we can get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, I'm curious what your measurement for success would be as an individual trustee. Oh, sorry, I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic there. And then Lynn, over to you.
I think as Roger said, it's important to look at how many students are actually graduating. Although what I like to look at is where are they dropping out? Where are the flashpoints that they're not being successful around? And looking at the kind of programs that they're actually taking and what changes can we make there? How do we work with the parent or guardian to make sure that that program is doing what it should be doing, which is to support the student and encourage them to continue. We need to make sure we do lots of alternates, that one path doesn't meet all.
Thank you for that, Ed. I see Lynn wanted to use a rebuttal card for that one. Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, you know, in measuring success, I think the assessment that's done each year, I think we need to encourage the outcomes of that, but we need to ask the students. We really do need to ask the students what they need. Is everything okay with them? And this is where we ask them about their mental health and then make a plan. You know, that assessment that's done each year, we need to work with that assessment. And that would help with extra supports that they need because they'll be saying it. Taking that stick, all of the things that they work against, they need to know that confidentiality matters and that their words really mean a lot to us as educators and parents. I think that really needs to get across to them. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. I've got one more question. So if you have a rebuttal card and you want to use it, this might be a good opportunity to use it. Diana, I'm curious if you could talk to me about how to solicit the student voice to be heard at the board table.
I think that's all about making sure that that you're willing to listen when students or parents want to make presentations to the board, having that willingness to welcome them into a board meeting and have open dialogue with the board or with their administration, or it's about bending over backwards a little bit. It seems to me that I have heard from a lot of PACs over the years that it's a bit of a hurdle to get into the board office and to have your ideas brought forward without having them be crushed down before you even get in. And it is intimidating for an awful lot of parents and students to be told that that's probably not going to wash, or we can't meet with you until next month, or, you know, so for me, it's more open dialogue.
Peter, I'm going to ask you the same question. You spoke earlier about engagement with communities and that sort of thing. How do you see involving the student voice at the board level?
Yeah, it's funny. I was discussing this today while I walked around with my wife, and apparently only old people have Facebook. We don't, the kids have TikTok, they have Zoom, they're using things I don't even know about. So being able to open up that dialogue on a level that they can communicate with us confidently behind their screens and have a dialogue openly with us is key. Because most kids, and I have young kids who would be too shy and intimidated to come in front of a board and tell me. But if you got a group and this is their plan, and it's not about, okay, that's a great idea. How would you do it, or what would you like to see? This is your school, your class, this is your idea. How can we assist you and the staff to achieve this goal? And it's about working together and respecting the comments that are coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And I see Ed is strategically using a rebuttal card. Go ahead, Ed. Let me unmute you here. Hold on. Do you see the message there? You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, I think it's really important to listen to students, and there are ways of accessing. Teachers often think they're the only ones assessing, but if you ask a student at the end of a lesson, what did you think of that? They'll tell you. There's actually two kinds of assessment going on in the classroom at the same time. There's yours and there's theirs. As a teacher, it's yours. As a student, it's theirs. And I think it's important to listen to that, to access that, not at the board level, but rather before you ever get to the board level. Because once students come with what knowledge they have of what they like, what strategies do they like, what kinds of situations do they like, they can come to the board and then speak with authority. And I think that's the important part. You give them voice. If you don't give them voice, you've given them nothing.
And Dave, what's your response to that with your rebuttal card? Thank you, Ed, for your words.
I think it's really important that we hear from kids, from students, from all of them. I think we provide opportunities. We invite them. We find ways to encourage them to come forward and speak to us and share their feelings. It's important. It's critical because they have to buy into what we're doing for them and with them. We have to buy into what they're doing as well. Thank you.
Roger, over to you.
Just 1 second. Roger's used up all of his.
Okay.
Sorry, Roger, no luck for you. Do I see any other rebuttals out there? Kate, does Kate have one left? I think so.
No, actually, the only one who has one left is Peter.
Peter, you get the last word in here before we move into the closing comments. And there you are, the magic to unmute.
The kids that we want to track their voices for, this is when we working, well, as a board, we can work with the teachers to ask them to start a project in their class after school, during the school, and make it a project for them, to students, to grow their voice as a group, and for them to be able to present it to us electronically. And then once they get comfortable enough and with that dialogue, then we can take the next step for them to come and present a coherent plan of how they see the vision of what they would like, how the school would be changed, and what they would like to be having different for us. Because like Ed said, they are switched on. Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow. These 2 hours have gone by very quickly, everybody. Thank you so much for answering. We answered a lot of questions in that period of time. I really appreciate everybody's perspective. And this is a very civil way of doing debate. There's been no explosions. Everybody's been very good with one another. Thank you for that. We did say that we would do our closing remarks in reverse order, and I just want to make sure I am looking at the right sheet. Can you remind me, Michelle, if I get this wrong? So we'll go in reverse order. So that means Diana Penner, Peter Lambright, Roger Leclaire, Kate Spangle, Dave Crawley, Lynn Parker, and Ed Harrison for closing remarks. And Diana, you have 2 minutes. We'll start with you.
I do want to thank the panel for the opportunity to get together to be able to talk about educational issues and to bring those forward in this medium. And thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and to you, Sarah, for hosting it. Appreciate that a lot. I am eager to be able to represent our students in the event that I should be elected, and I am eager to get on board. I am eager to open my arms to those people that are wanting to have some issues brought forward that I hear are not coming forward. I believe I was diligent and conscientious during the 9 years that I have served as a trustee in the past, and I believe that coming in as a new trustee on an interim by-election kind of would be easier and more seamless if it were a trustee that had been on the board before, just because of policies and stuff. I am a farmer. I'm used to getting down in the dirt and getting and hard work, and I'm prepared to do that again. And I'm going to keep it short and leave it at that. That's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. Peter Lambright, your closing statements. You have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming forward. I'd like to thank you all, especially the moderator who had to keep muting me. Anybody who knows me loves I know to talk. And I was asking a couple gentlemen a while ago, what is terrace? And terrace is a melting pot of diverse cultures, languages, people. And what makes terrace great is we view it as our community. And terrace is my community. I'm very proud of it. I'm very passionate about it. I want to be part of it so that I can help work with the board that has brought us this far. And with my ideas and their ideas, how I can help and build on to bring us to the next level. Having young kids keeps me alive, keeps me passionate, and I learn every day from this. But having that connection, being able to bring it right to the board of listening to what my family, relatives, what several of their concerns are, but also learning how to use the technology to make us more accessible for everybody in their time of needs, and how can we help them. So together we can thrive, and we can do this together. And COVID has stressed out all of us to the maximum. Parents, teachers, staff. So how can we support them to help our kids to have a better future and a better education? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Roger Leclaire, geez, I'd love to add up everybody's years of service already on the school board here. It's incredible, or in education. Roger Leclaire, you have 2 minutes, please.
Well, I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this. Sarah, I'd like to thank you for being the moderator. And I'd like to thank fellow candidates and all the best. I'm running for a school trustee because I care about our students, staff, and our community. I believe that all students should have equal opportunity to be successful and graduate. I believe in the vision of the Coast Mountain School District. Create opportunities for learning, opportunities for life. I believe I have the skill sets and experience that can help the district move forward, work towards achieving its vision. With that, all the best, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate your words. Kate, it's your turn for your closing remarks. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, everyone, for making this possible. I really wish all my fellow candidates well. I'm super impressed with the level of experience, knowledge, and passion for our children and our communities. So I wish everyone well, and regardless of who is the successful individual on March 6th, I really believe that our district and our students will win.
Yes.
I want to leave you tonight with an analogy that I feel fits, and that is that of a garden. Our plot is kind of like our infrastructure. It's, that's our buildings, that's our funding, that's all finite. That's, we don't have a whole lot of wiggle room there with that. Where we get to be creative is in what we plant and how we tend it. So I look at this is that we have so many different plants that require such different nutrients, the sun exposure, levels of moisture, and our teachers and our support staff are the garden tenders. They nurture and grow these seeds into beautiful, diverse crops of knowledge. And this is ultimately what we feed our children. As a board, it's our responsibility to see that the tenders of the crops have the necessary materials to nurture that garden, maximizing yields, achieving the best outcomes for our children. The board, district, parents, students, and the community all play a huge role in this growth. We all bring ideas, beliefs, and values to our garden. In my analogy, I see this as the compost. Valuable, varied ideas that the board then blends into rich, fertile soil that we in turn provide to the educators to assist in their Herculean task of meeting all of the educational needs of all of our children across our geographically vast district. And thank you for considering me.
Well timed. Thank you for that. And what a wonderful analogy. I think I had almost as much fun just watching Diana's response to your analogy there. So that was really cool. Thank you for that. Dave Crawley, did Dave manage to come back? I think he did. There he is. Dave, you are next. You have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, it's been a real pleasure tonight to be involved in this event. So thank you very much again to the Chamber and to Michelle and you, Sarah, as well. Technology challenges us all at times. I think we have in our district some really good educational leaders, some excellent teachers, many excellent teachers, and we have students who are capable of learning and being successful. And so as a board member, I would try to provide opportunities for those people to be successful at what they do and to really enjoy and become engaged in learning, because it is a joyful experience. I've seen a group of excellent candidates tonight. And I know that if the public is having difficulty deciding who to vote for, they could always try alphabetical. Thank you very much.
I'm glad I had my mute button on because I have a very loud laugh, and that was a good one, Dave. Thanks for the recommendation. It's like when students choose AC/DC for their multiple choice exams, right? Those little bubble exams. All right, moving on to Lynn Parker. Lynn, you've got 2 minutes.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the Chamber, Michelle and Tom, and thank you to the Coast Mountain College for lending Sarah to us today. I just want to say thank you to each of you for your presentation and all your words of wisdom. I want to acknowledge and thank our Art Erasmus for the time that he's had with us. I just want to say thank you, Art, for all the time and all of your wisdom that you passed on. I want to say, I just want to acknowledge and thank my husband, Daniel, as well as my 4 kids, Charles, James, Yelena, and Ryland, as well as my daughter-in-law, Kelsey. I want to let you know that I'm honored and grateful to become to be on this list to become a school trustee. I need to know, I need you to know that you have, that I'm at the table for you. I'm at the table for your children. I'm at the table for all of the 4,500 students. I'm at the table as a voice for you. I've already had all of the messages sent to me, or not all of them, but I've had messages sent to me, and I just want to say thank you for all of that, and thank you for the support. I do wish all of the fellow candidates good luck. I think this is a very important time for us. We have a lot of business to take care of, considering we have the 5-year plan at the realm. I really need to push that. We need to ask the students. Go to each classroom and ask the students what they want. That needs to be in the realm of accepting what they need, as well as our staff. So thank you all so much, and God bless you. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. And last but not least, Ed, you have 2 minutes. You're already unmuted. I don't need to do anything.
I managed to do it this time. I'd like to thank Sarah, Michelle, and Tom and the Chamber, as well as Carol Gagnon, who supplied us with a lot of information for tonight as well. Wow, if you look at the list of topics, mental health, music and the arts, recruitment, administrative assistance, COVID, the range of topics, the French immersion, those are all great. They all reflect the community that's involved in the education of the students. And I think that's important to recognize at this time. School boards provide cohesiveness to the ministry and district's educational program while ensuring that each school is able to uniquely serve the learning needs of the individual student. The board's support of a 5-year plan based upon parent and student input is a positive step toward continuing to implement the goal of the BC curriculum, which is unique in the world. It's looked at right throughout the world as being different because of that social emotional component. And we don't really understand that yet. Further support providing the First Peoples in language culture, and particularly beginning to move toward providing language courses for those students in their own language. It's very important for the board to continue to understand how the social emotional aspects of the curriculum can be interpreted within the district. And the bottom line is, for everyone, kids count. And I really wish everybody good luck. That's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for stepping forward. It does take a lot of courage and bravery to be willing to put yourself out there for a leadership position. So thank you for putting your names forward, and good luck to each and every one of you on March 6th. I want to thank Tom Keller for hanging in there for this whole meeting. It's not easy being on a 2-hour Zoom meeting where your speech is a minute long at the beginning of the 2 hours and you still have to be engaged for 2 hours. So way to go, Tom. Michelle, thank you so much for all the organizing that you did. Your notes were great. The timing was awesome. Thank you for collecting the questions. We really couldn't have done it without the Terracin District Chamber of Commerce, so we appreciate that. And of course, the support from School District 82, Carol Gagnon, and others. So just a reminder to those watching, the mail-in ballot voting will also be available now and must be returned no later than 8 p.m. on Saturday, March 6th. To register for this option, information is available at www.cmsd.bc.ca/ there's got to be an easier way of doing this, mail-ballot-voting/ and perhaps the chamber can share that information when they post, or the school district can share that information when they post the video. Advanced voting is available at the Terrace Sportsplex multi-purpose room on Wednesday, February 24th and March 3rd between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And general voting is also available at the Terrace Sportsplex multi-purpose room on Saturday, March 6th between 8 and 8 p.m. And for more information, you can refer to the school district's website at www.cmsd.bc.ca. So with that in mind, I'd like to say thank you to all of you. Have a good night. Lynn, do I say Amasa at this time of night, or is that afternoon? When I say good day, I guess
I'm Dixon and I say Tamgyatnin.
thank you for that. I will learn one day at a time, Somalia can get Sanamak. So
This is
have a
it.
great evening, everybody. Thank you very much. And we'll be stopping the recording now. Take care.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Michelle.